A scream shattered the silence of the night, and the cheerful noise of a student party gave way to panic. Three girls, who had recently been dancing among their classmates, never returned home. The next morning, the streets were filled with police, and residents discussed the bodies they had found with horror and disbelief. A party organized by students at a local college in a small American town was expected to be a typical event for young people looking for fun at the end of the school week. Rumors swirled around campus that a particularly large crowd would gather that evening, and indeed, loud music was heard in a rented house off campus well before midnight. Three friends, Sarah Miller, Emily Carter, and Jessica Lee, were preparing for this evening as if it were an event destined to become a lasting memory in the midst of their daily routine. All three were freshmen living in the same dorm and had quickly hit it off after the semester began. Sarah was studying biology, Emily was studying psychology, and Jessica was studying journalism. Each was excited about her own future plans, but they were united by a desire for friendship and a passion for student life. That evening, they went to the party together, calling a taxi and agreeing to stay together. Their phones were filled with photos taken the night before. Laughing faces, sparkling eyes, and not a trace of anxiety. It was around 9 o'clock when the girls entered the house, where several dozen students had already gathered. According to witnesses, the girls stuck together, although they often split up to socialize with different people. Sarah met several seniors, Emily danced almost nonstop, and Jessica took short videos on her phone, which would later become crucial evidence. Music was blaring, and the smell of alcohol and cigarettes hung in the air. The atmosphere was loud, but that was considered normal for student events. Around midnight, the girls were still in the house. Witnesses claimed they left the dance floor, went to the bar, and returned again. No one noticed anything suspicious. At a certain point, around 1 a.m., the trio was seen outside near the parking lot. They were talking with a group of young people, including a senior student known for his aggressive behavior. Several people later claimed to have heard raised voices and an argument. After that, their trail begins to disappear. Surveillance footage from neighboring houses shows the girls walking toward a dark, vacant lot behind the house. The cameras showed the time as around 1:40 a.m. No one saw them again that night. The first to raise the alarm was Sarah's dorm roommate, who noticed her bed untouched the next day. The girls' phones were unavailable, and attempts to contact them via social media were unsuccessful. Their parents began calling the campus, and a few hours later, a missing persons report was filed with the police. Law enforcement took the report seriously. The disappearance of 3 female students in a small town could not be a coincidence. That evening, police visited all witnesses to the party, compiled a guest list, and began checking the area around the house. Initial searches yielded no results. However, during an inspection of the party site, traces of blood were found on the asphalt near the parking lot. This was the first alarm signal. Police soon brought in dog handlers and volunteers to help search. The area of the vacant lot and forest belt behind the house was cordoned off. As these events unfolded, anxiety in the city grew. Students were afraid to go out in the evenings, parents demanded a report, and the media began actively covering the disappearance. For the girls' loved ones, this was the beginning of an agonizing wait. With each passing hour, hope of finding them alive faded. Soon, the investigation took a new turn when the first tangible evidence was discovered pointing to a tragic outcome. The disappearance of 3 female students quickly became a town-wide emergency. The first calls came in the morning after the party. The girls had not returned to their dorm, their belongings were left untouched in their rooms, and their phones were disconnected. Their parents tried to contact them through friends, but to no avail. For the small student community, this seemed like a sign of serious trouble. Investigators' first step was to reconstruct the route. According to eyewitnesses, the girls left the house where the party was taking place around 1 a.m. and headed toward the parking lot. A surveillance camera on a neighboring building captured them at 1:40 a.m. The footage shows the trio walking toward a vacant lot. The figures of 2 young men can be seen near them. Witnesses later claimed that one of them was senior student Daniel Hayes, known for his confrontational nature and propensity for fighting. After this moment, the girls disappear from view. The cameras no longer record them, and around 2 in the morning, their phones stop working. The last activity on Jessica's phone is a short video at 1:27 showing students dancing. This was the last reliable evidence before their disappearance. Police began by questioning the guests. Most said the women appeared calm, although several people heard raised voices near the parking lot. A search of the area yielded initial results. Traces of blood were found near the cars. An examination later determined that the blood belonged to a woman, but a DNA test was needed for a definitive identification. Dog handlers soon joined the search. The dogs picked up a scent near the parking lot and led them toward a forest belt, but quickly lost it on the asphalt. Volunteers combed the surrounding area, while police searched the vacant lot and nearby houses. A bracelet belonging to Emily and a piece of cloth with blood stains were found in the tall grass. These findings were added to the case and became crucial evidence. Investigators simultaneously analyzed the girls' correspondence. On Sarah's phone, they found messages from Daniel Hayes, who persistently invited her to meet separately that night. This detail heightened suspicions against him. They were unable to immediately question him. After the party, he failed to show up for class and was absent from campus for several days. By the end of the second day of the search, panic was growing in the city. Students avoided evening walks, parents demanded a report on the investigation, and local media published headlines about a possible abduction. Flyers with photographs of the girls were posted around campus, and their images were distributed on news channels. On the third day, police expanded their search area. In a forested area near the party site, they discovered fresh vehicle tracks leading to an old quarry. This discovery became a turning point. Investigators suspected that this was where the girls might have been taken. Despite mounting public pressure, the police tried to avoid making hasty statements. But within the department, they understood that this was no mere accidental disappearance. Too many coincidences and too many clear signs of violence pointed to foul play, and each new piece of evidence only heightened anxiety. Time was running out, and the likelihood of a tragic outcome was growing with each passing minute. The search for the girls in the first days after their disappearance was virtually fruitless. Despite large-scale raids, the use of dog handlers and volunteers, police found no traces that could lead to their whereabouts. The situation only changed on the fourth day, when a search party explored an abandoned quarry outside the city. The quarry was located off the beaten track, a place little known to most students, but well known to locals. A trail of vehicle tracks found in the woods led there. Police suspected the perpetrator may have used this secluded location to conceal his tracks. In the afternoon, a search party noticed a patch of ground near the quarry where the grass was flattened and the soil appeared to have been recently loosened. As they approached, they smelled a distinctive odor. Forensic experts were immediately called to the scene. After excavating the top layer of soil, the investigators stumbled upon the first body. The remaining 2 girls were later found in the same area. All 3 victims were found in a shallow pit, covered with earth and branches. The forensic experts who were called and documented the horrific condition of the bodies. According to preliminary reports, death occurred on the night of their disappearance. Each of the girls showed signs of violent death. One had multiple bruises and fractures, another had stab wounds, and the third had died of strangulation. Forensic experts theorized that the violence had occurred within a short period of time, after which the bodies were hastily removed and hidden. An examination of the crime scene yielded several clues. A plastic bottle containing alcohol residue, cigarette butts, and shoe prints were found near the pit. Some of the footprints belonged to men. Tire tracks were also found in the quarry, matching the tracks found earlier in the forest belt. This evidence led to the conclusion that the crime was committed by a vehicle. News of the discovery quickly leaked to the media. That evening, the city was in shock. Reports showed the cordoned-off quarry, investigators' tents, and black bags in which the bodies were carried out. The girls' parents were officially notified, but the news had spread throughout the community even earlier. The university declared a day of mourning. Administration canceled classes for several days, and memorial plaques with photographs of the victims were installed across campus. Students brought flowers and candles. For many, the discovery of the bodies was a turning point. Hope gave way to the bitter realization of the tragedy. Police held a press conference that same evening. Representatives confirmed that the bodies of the 3 missing students had been found. They declined to disclose details of the investigation, citing the need for further forensic analysis. However, journalists noted that forensic experts were seen near the crime scene examining cigarette butts and fragments of fabric left near the pit. The forensic analysis began immediately. DNA samples, shoe prints, and residue from the bottle were sent to the lab. Investigators hoped to confirm the killer's identity. At the same time, police intensified surveillance of the primary suspects. Among them, Daniel Hayes, a student last seen with girls on the night of the party, stood out. The discovery of the bodies changed the direction of the investigation. While there had previously been hope that the girls might be alive, investigators now officially treated the case as a triple homicide. All subsequent work was aimed at identifying the culprit and gathering irrefutable evidence. A difficult time began for the victims' families and friends. The question, who and why, grew louder, and rumors and speculation swirled throughout the city. But the police remained silent, recognizing the difficult task ahead, establishing the full picture of the crime, and finding the person capable of committing such a brutal act. After the bodies were discovered, the investigation entered its active phase. The focus was no longer on searching for the missing persons, but on solving a triple murder. The primary objective was to reconstruct the chronology of the night's events and gather evidence that would allow for specific charges to be brought. Forensic experts arrived at the scene where the bodies were found. They meticulously documented every element of the scene: trampled grass, tire tracks, cigarette butts, and scraps of fabric. They paid particular attention to shoe prints, some of which matched the size of a man's shoe. Photographs and plaster casts were sent to the lab. Experts also recorded that the hole had been dug with a shovel, indicating a premeditated action. A preliminary examination determined that the girls died between 2 and 3 a.m., shortly after leaving the party. The causes of death varied, indicating the chaotic and extremely brutal nature of the attack. The investigation concluded that the crime may have been committed by a group of individuals. The police returned to the party guest list. Interviews continued for several days, checking everyone's alibis. Daniel Hayes aroused the greatest suspicion. Several witnesses confirmed seeing him near the parking lot with the girls. Furthermore, messages on Sarah's phone showed his persistent attempts to meet her that evening. Daniel himself avoided contact with the police for several days, which only heightened suspicions. Investigators began following Hayes. His car was soon seized for analysis. Tire marks were found on the tires, matching those found near the quarry. Brown stains were found in the trunk, later confirmed as bloodstains. DNA testing revealed a match to one of the victims. This evidence dramatically changed the course of the investigation, turning Hayes from a witness into a prime suspect. In addition to physical evidence, police analyzed cell phone data. Geolocation data revealed that Daniel had left the party area that night and was near the quarry around 2 a.m. This information matched the approximate time of death of the girls. However, the evidence pointed beyond Hayes. Analysis of cigarette butts found near the burial site revealed the DNA of another person, a classmate named Ryan Fields. He was also present at the party and, according to witnesses, had gone out with Hayes shortly before the girls' disappearance. Thus, investigators had reason to believe that multiple people were involved in the crime. Both suspects were detained for questioning. Hayes denied any involvement, claiming he left the party alone and didn't see the girls after they left the house. But the contradictions in his statements became increasingly apparent. Ryan Fields initially also denied any involvement, but later admitted to being with Hayes in the vacant lot. His testimony partially matched the case file, although he tried to portray himself as a bystander. The evidence collected allowed investigators to develop a preliminary theory. The girls, intoxicated, left the party and headed to the parking lot. There, they encountered Hayes and Fields, who invited them to their cars. A confrontation ensued, leading to the girls being forcibly taken to the quarry, where the murder subsequently occurred. Further forensic tests further strengthened this theory. DNA traces found on fabric in the grass matched Ryan Fields's. Shoe prints near the pit matched Hayes' shoes. Thus, police had a chain of evidence directly linking the suspects to the crime scene. The investigators officially announced the completion of the initial phase of the investigation. The primary task now was to prepare the evidence for trial. For the victims' families, this was devastating but important news. The missing girls case had become a murder case, and the perpetrators seemed to have been identified. The arrest of Daniel Hayes and Ryan Fields took place a week after the bodies were discovered. Police conducted the operation in the early morning hours while both suspects were on campus. They were let out in handcuffs in front of students, a moment that was captured on local television. For the university, this was a symbolic event. For the first time in a long time, students saw the investigation moving toward concrete results. Investigators presented an extensive list of evidence. Police had DNA testing results, a match between tire tracks and shoe prints, bloodstains found in the trunk of Hayes' car, and witness statements. A key factor, however, was Ryan Fields' admission of partial guilt. He agreed to cooperate with the investigation, claiming that the murder was Hayes' initiative and that his role was limited to being present at the scene. The case was soon transferred to the district court. The lead-up to the trial was accompanied by intense media attention. Newspapers covered the investigation in detail, and television broadcast interviews with the victims' families. The city was discussing not only the tragedy, but also the issue of campus security. Many parents publicly accused the university administration of a lack of oversight over students and lack security at events. The trial began several months later. Prosecutors presented a coherent picture of the crime. According to their account, Hayes and Fields confronted the women near a parking lot, then forced them into a car and drove them out of town. Near the quarry, the women were raped and subsequently murdered. Forensic examinations confirmed that each died from different causes, indicating the indiscriminate and brutal nature of the attack. Hayes' defense attempted to cast doubt on the credibility of the evidence, arguing that the traces discovered could have arisen under other circumstances. But the chain of evidence appeared too compelling. Furthermore, Hayes' own behavior during questioning left a negative impression. He contradicted himself and changed his version of events several times. During the trial, Fields accepted a plea bargain. He gave a detailed testimony, describing exactly how the night unfolded and claiming that Hayes had attacked the girls first. For his cooperation, the prosecution offered him a sentence less severe than life imprisonment. Relatives of the victims were present in the courtroom. The atmosphere was tense. Each hearing was marked by intense emotions, but the proceedings remained rigorous and meticulously documented. The judge repeatedly emphasized that the case required a reliance solely on facts and evidence. The verdict was handed down after several weeks of hearings. Daniel Hayes was found guilty of all charges, including triple murder and kidnapping. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Ryan Fields received a 35-year sentence with the possibility of parole after 20 years. For the city, the trial marked the culmination of a tragic story. The court's decision marked the end of the investigation, but it did not bring complete relief to the families. While they received confirmation of guilt and punishment for the perpetrators, the loss of 3 young lives remained irreparable. The triple murder of female students shocked the city and became a lesson in the fragility of security, even in familiar surroundings. The trial concluded the investigation, but the memory of the victims remained part of local history. For families and friends, the loss became an abiding pain, and for society, a reminder of the price of cruelty.